The following podcast contains spoilers.
Hello, and welcome to Staying Awake.
I have a sleeping disorder. I can't tell the difference between my waking life and dreams.
Hello, and welcome to Staying Awake. This is the Bunzarelli Show.
I'm Joe. On the line, I got Bob with us. Bob, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, how's it going? Doing good.
Good. And of course, back in the studio, we got Khiim. Khiim, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How you guys doing?
Good. Chilling. We had talked before about when MoonKnight was down the road. We were saying things like, you know, it's kind of nice that we're going in with no expectations and there's no like, oh, I hope they do this, I hope to do that. And, you know, and not even knowing too much about the comic character itself. And I'll tell you, this was a real treat for me. What'd you guys think? Bob, how was your experience? I know you were texting me that night when the show came out.
Yeah, I was in the same boat. I was enjoying it a lot, and I know absolutely nothing about him. So I didn't know what was going on, but not, you know, it was kind of like in a good way to where it wasn't like, oh, I don't, you know, because obviously we weren't supposed to know. Yeah. What was going on. It wasn't just that I didn't know. So that was nice. But yeah, I love the tone of it and how it kept going. And I hope it sticks with it. And it isn't just like we figure out what's really going on the next episode and everything slows down, because the pace of it was just really like high energy, awesome, just really entertaining.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, I like the tone of it. I think it was a great pilot episode, especially for being, I think, that they purposely chose a character that not everybody's familiar with, and they're introducing him greatly. Because I was hoping that we weren't really going to get that, hey guys, I'm MoonKnight, this is my backstory, okay, and dive into the action, you know what I mean? We're kind of going on this adventure of like, okay, what's really going on? Same thing as the character, he doesn't know what's going on. So we're taking those first steps with him.
There's three personalities going on here. So you got Stephen Grant, you've got Mark Spector, who's the mercenary, tough guy, cool guy, and you got, I'm just going to say MoonKnight, because whatever that third voice is, I'm guessing Gauging is the source of the power.
Are we sure that voice isn't Venom?
I know, I was getting some Venom vibe from that.
I was too.
I almost think they took a cue from Venom, and they're like, I could see them in the writings room, like, how are we going to do this? Like, let's do the Venom thing.
I wish they would have went with a little bit different tone. I didn't want to be reminded that much of Venom.
I did.
Yeah, it was a little, especially being another, well, Venom isn't really a Marvel movie, but you know what I mean? Especially being another so close to Venom. Yeah. You know, in almost the same universe, and then to do almost the same thing. I like how they did the sound though, like the actual sound of it to where it sounded, it was so much louder than everything else.
Yeah, it had a presence to voice. There was like a bass to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, where like the real, everything else going on seemed distant compared to that voice, which was really cool, I thought.
Yeah, it was very omnipresent.
Yes, exactly.
Besides like the Marvel logo, there was really not like an MCU presence in this show, and I kind of found it refreshing because I'm kind of, and it's big, and if it really happened in real life, yes, it would have an impact. But I'm kind of tired of hearing about the snap. You know what I'm saying? Like, where were you during the snap? Where were you during the snap? You know, it's like, I don't know. I kind of like the little closed bubble it's in. It's just, and whether or not it dips into the MCU again is like, get to see, but I kind of like that it's kind of self-contained because it doesn't take you out of the moment. Like, what part does this play in the big picture? There's
so much going on in Marvel. There's so many different crazy heroes going on that it's almost getting a little ridiculous. So to sort of take you out of that and get you into a little more realistic, like just not mentioning any of that for now.
Yeah, it was very down to earth. Like, it just, like you said, it just disconnected from everything that was going on to where there'd be moments you forgot it was a part of this universe.
Yeah, it was a very grounded story, and it's very specific. So it's going to start getting diluted with all that other stuff. What you were saying about the pacing, Bob, it was kind of cool because the mystery kind of, like, you're thrown into something weird's happening right off the bat. And it was on the second viewing that I'm watching the sand, and I'm like, okay, what's the sand for? Because I thought it was some kind of like he actually knew what was going on. It was some kind of mystical thing.
Yeah.
Like, no, the sand is because he wants to see if there's any tracks.
Yeah.
And the tape,
Oh.
and the tape is to see if anybody opened the door.
Open the door. Yeah.
Because he's kind of aware of what's happening. So what I'm gauging is this dude has a split personality.
And he thinks he's just night walking.
Yeah, and now whatever personality is the real personality is one thing.
Yeah.
And apparently this MoonKnight specter, whatever this third voice is aware of the situation.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gauging. But the way they presented it, because he kind of jumped into that first action scene pretty cool, like pretty fast, where he gets to Ethan Hawke's character. Arthur Harrow. So Arthur Harrow, he has just enough interest going on, but what really makes him cool is his interest in what's going on with Mark Spector, Moon Knight, because he seems to be gauging the situation pretty quickly. Because he says in the beginning, mercenaries, so he knows Mark Spector's part of it, and then he actually you were for real with this gift shop thing. Mm-hmm. So he knows there is something up. He's not just playing with me, and he actually witnessed the whole thing. With that first fight scene, where all of a sudden he's blacking out, and you see him with the blood on his hands and everything, and
that's so cool.
Then right away, and I felt like we were in that pretty quick, and then all of a sudden, he misses the date, and then the ice cream truck scene.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh no, the idiot's in charge again. And then he's driving and he warps and he kills a dude. And even besides just the kid, they actually did a cool stunt with the guy jumping into the moving van.
Yeah.
So it was like, wow, this is like that show. And
everything looks good.
Yeah, everything looked good. It was and it was 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Went by fast. I was like, that must have been a half an hour because it seemed like it was flying. But there was never a point in it where I was like, where's Moon Knight in the costume? Until obviously he shows up at the end. But there was the Goldfish thing. I didn't catch that till the second time. A lot of it takes a little bit of a second viewing to really understand what was going on.
Yeah.
What's the Goldfish thing?
So he starts in the beginning, and his goldfish, he goes, hey, what's up, friend? And I think he might have even said Nemo or something. But it was just his goldfish had one fin. So then he wakes up the next morning, and there's a fish, and the fish has two fins. So he brings the fish to the pet store, and he's like, did my fish grow another fin? And he goes, no, you were here yesterday. You just bought it. So that's where he's realizing that.
Oh.
So because he was gone for a week, the fish probably died, and Mark got the other fish. And then the same thing where he set up the date with the other girl. It's all the pieces kind of coming together, which once again, why it's good, it's like too many things weren't going on. Because it's not like too big of a mystery they're trying to make you unravel. Like, I'd like to see a quick flashback about little scene where you're going to see Mark either become Moon Knight and jump over the sand or whatever he does to but that'll be a quick little reveal that they do. But it's definitely an interesting character. So really what's got to be shown is how did he get those, what's the split personality deal? How do you get to Moon Knight powers? Picture if Venom got into Eddie Brock and then realized Eddie Brock had a split personality. That's a cool dynamic.
Yeah.
It'd be like, what the hell is going on?
Maybe he was just nuts to begin with. It wasn't that Moon Knight made him nuts.
Yeah, I think
that's what you're saying.
I think he might have been crazy because for some reason these names seem familiar to me. I've always associated Moon Knight with Mark Spector. That's what I remember from the comics. But the other name, the Stephen Grant, sounds familiar. So I don't know if this is something that's made new for the movie and they twisted something, or it's just because I've never read Moon Knight that I'm missing a piece of the puzzle. I just remember.
Hold on. So you know it a little more than I do. Khiim, do you know Moon Knight from before the show at all?
No, I literally know nothing about Moon Knight. I didn't know Moon Knight until they disclosed that they were going to be doing a show on him.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, same here. I'm wondering if we're the only no, it couldn't be because we would have known. We've done enough comic book stuff that
I've never heard of Moon Knight. I know a lot about.
Yeah, comics. I've never heard of him.
I think I could even tell you the storyline. I think it was either because there were two Spider-Man stories in the 90s that brought in a bunch of superheroes. One was Maximum Carnage, and one was Revenge of the Sinister Six. Okay. In one of those, a bunch of superheroes were helping Spider-Man. One of them, Moon Knight, was in one of them. But I just remember Moon Knight being just like Batman. I'm not just making a joke he's Marvel's Batman. He just straight up acted like Batman. And I thought Mark Spector was a rich dude. That's what I remember. But it was so long ago. But I only remember his appearance in Spider-Man. You know, his
and they could have changed it. Who knows?
Yeah, but he seemed like, and maybe they did because they were like, okay, they could have kind of rebooted him in the comic books since after we were reading comic books.
Yeah.
But he just seemed like, okay, he's just like I remember him pretty much like calmly explaining to Spider-Man what was going on. Like I just kind of remember him taking charge of the situation and just reminding me of Batman. But nothing that made an impact, but the name Mark Spector, like I might remember from like some Moon Knight trading cards or something. Remember those Marvel cards, Bob? That was like, they had information about the character. That's why Mark Spector sounds familiar. But the Stephen Grant does too. The fact that Mark is getting all the phone calls makes me think Mark is the real personality.
You think so?
Yeah, I think, and especially because Mark Spector just sounds more familiar to me. I think Mark might be the real guy.
But Steven is the one that has the actual job.
Yeah.
And it's like
Steven's the English accent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Steven's the nerdy, the idiot.
Yeah.
That's Steven. So Mark's the cool guy you see at the end. And what about that end scene?
Yeah, that end scene was good.
That was
I wish
so
it would have
cool.
been a little bit longer.
But it's just like,
But it's a good way to tease.
it was like just enough to like here. It was like the big, like the build up. It all comes down to this. Like it just happened so fast. It was like the confrontation. Like it was like Steven facing the Marks thing. He gives in and he goes, "You can't fight me this time." He was referring to the ice cream truck thing.
Yeah.
And it's just that 2 seconds of Moon Knight, like that was a payoff. Talk about like there was no guy in a costume the whole show. That worked for me.
Yeah. And how do you guys think the costume looks?
I think it looks as good as it can for what if they try to make it too. Because the comic book one was real simple.
I think it's perfect.
I think it's great. It's enough where he doesn't look lame. He looks different.
Yeah, and it's got just the right. You could tell there's little CGI touches as far as like the eyes and everything, but everything looks good.
Yeah, it's more layered than like the comic book. It's actually like the comic book one is very simple. This one's like puts a lot of emphasis to where he almost needs it.
Yeah, I feel like you'd have to because it's an all white costume.
Yeah, like when you say Daredevil, and then they usually kind of they put a little more in his costume.
Yeah.
And like, well, I get why they did it, but this one kind of needed it. It does good for him.
Yeah.
I feel like they leaned into this magic Egyptian thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Like they really just like lean into this. And that's another thing. There was twice where you saw this like Moon Knight kind of Spectre thing with the Reaper. He was standing behind Steven at one point.
Yeah.
Like right at the part when he was talking to him and he goes like, what are you doing here, idiot? And like you see him for a second behind him, turns around, he's gone. And I think you saw him in the bus and in the apartment too.
Yeah, in apartments, you full-fledged see him.
Yeah,
see his face and everything.
And I think it's like a representation. Now there's a picture floating around the internet of like a Moon Knight like character. It's like Moon Knight, but he's got like a tie on and he's got like no hood. Have you seen that?
I don't think I have.
It's pretty cool.
Oh, no,
looking.
actually I have.
Yeah.
The streaming site that I watched it on, the background image is that.
Yeah.
It's of him with the tie on and like
so is
the
that
mask.
Mark? Is that the like whose personality is that? What is that? When we're gonna see that? But that looks pretty cool.
Oh, I see it. That's cool.
Yeah, I think once
He's
since
got the suit.
Yeah, he looks really cool. So what does that represent? And there's the more like, then there's the more spectral version of him where it's like he looks like totally like the spirit version of it.
Yeah.
So it's now we've got enough that's interesting now. We haven't even dipped into the Moon Knight part. Like what's the spirit and the ghost about? Like just the Steve Mark thing was cool enough.
Yeah, to me that just tells me Marvel's really about to go heavily into the magic aspects of the comics.
Yeah.
Because like we're seeing all these characters now just magic. So I'm wondering what part Moon Knight will play in interfacing with Stephen Strange or interfacing with Wanda. You know what I mean?
And Shang-Chi too.
Shang-Chi,
There's
exactly.
all sorts of magic
Like
going on. Yeah, I think you're onto something.
Yeah, the whole universe right now is being built upon magic. We're seeing that aspect. I think the last one was more cosmic anomalies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And now we're going into like spirituality, magic, multiverse, all that kind of stuff.
It's cool because when you first started seeing magic in it, it was like, okay, now, first we had to buy this, that this guy's got these powers, and now we got to buy, oh, wait, there's also magic.
Yep.
But it's like, okay, well, maybe we did 10 years of punching each other in the head. Let's throw some magic in there and, wizardry and all that kind of stuff and really get some cool effects that way. Take a whole different route.
Well, I read something glancing because you know how you read news stories where you're like just kind of scrolling and you see something. I did see something that said Oscar Isaac is only signed on, like his contract is just for this.
Really?
If it's a hit, who knows? Marvel's got the money, but he played the British guy so well that for some reason I had it in my head like maybe Oscar Isaac is just British, like Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield. Like maybe this is his real voice. And then at the end when he does like his appearance as Mark Spector in the mirror, which by the way that was shot.
Yeah.
Because it goes seamlessly from him looking at his own reflection. Like I can't find the part where the reflection breaks and Mark comes in.
Yeah, yeah.
It seems to happen quickly.
Yeah.
But
the mirror stuff was cooler to me than the fights.
And
I thought that was so cool. Anytime he walked by himself, and then like especially like the ones where he didn't quite catch it.
Yeah.
Where like he would turn to go walk a different direction and the other guy wouldn't. That was cool.
Because Mark comes and now I'm thinking like it's Poe Dameron because that's the Oscar Isaac I know, but he's even like darker. Like you could see like he's very like focused, and it was like the reveal of Mark because we knew Mark was there. So we get the reveal of both of them at the same time. That's what made the momentum of that ending scene. Like, hey, ta-da, we're all here. Because he's missing some cool stuff with the car chases and the fights.
Yeah. Blacking
but at
out.
the end, you get like that other part. What's going to happen, the interesting to see is if these personalities confront each other. That kind of thing. How does that happen? How does it get worked out? And things like that.
Yeah.
Does it get worked out?
Yeah, does it get worked out? Does one agree to take the lead or
Or does the storyline follow the other one? Are we just following Steve and then and then he starts to realize he's the other guy maybe or whatever? Or is it going to be like next week we turn it on and it's following the other guy around?
Yeah.
They can't just say like, okay, we solved the problem and Steven's gone because what was the point of doing it? So that's still got to be an issue ongoing in the show.
Yeah.
So, but like unraveling the mystery, like what caused the split in the personality? Where did the Moon Knight stuff happen and everything? Which is, it's enthralling because we have no idea. That's what makes the show great. There's no expectations and no like, I hope they do this. And it's even like, I have no idea if we're going to see any MCU reference. I'd almost not be surprised if we didn't. I don't know.
I think I agree. I don't need it. I think I'd be happier if it waited until towards the end of the show,
or even like see, I think there's different scales, and the comics were like that. But I could see him like a smaller scale guy, like a Daredevil or something like that. But where would that tie into his story again?
Yeah.
So his story is almost like what's going on in his head is more of the story.
Yeah.
Because if you look at what he's fighting Ethan Hawke, Arthur Harrow, but Arthur Harrow he did pull that dog out of somewhere.
Yeah.
Like he does have some magic at his disposal. So I guess all that's going to get resolved. So,
and I like the fact that it's on like the other side of the world. Because for the most part, everything that's been going on in Marvel's been in New York.
Maybe that's why it's removed from everything.
Yeah. So I like the fact that it's like on the other side of the world. We don't really. He has no ties right now. He's kind of got this bubble.
I noticed that about Spider-Man when I watched it a second time.
Yeah.
No Way Home. I was like, this is supposed to happen like right after the Mysterio thing. And like everybody was blip heavy during the Mysterio thing. And then it's like, we forgot about that. It's supposed to be like the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we got over that fast.
Yeah.
So did you guys catch, I don't know if it was foreshadowing or if it was just a little joke or what, but I started it a second time. And in the beginning, he's showing the little girl stuff in the museum. Did it suck for you when he told a story about some Egyptian doing something? And she said to him, did it suck for you when you got rejected? And I couldn't catch the rest. I'd listened to it a few times. I don't know what she was talking about, but he said, no, that's silly because I'm not dead. And then he goes, or am I? And then he moved on. I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's it. I wonder if he's like a ghost or something. I don't know.
That's possible, like a reincarnated spirit or something. Because I know when he was
because they don't say stuff like that for nothing. You know what I mean? Anytime they say something, it's for something. So for him to just like look off in the distance, like I'm not dead, am I?
Yeah, and I remember he was reading like a book or something, and I forget what it said specifically, but it was along the lines of like a bridge between man and God.
The stuff in the museum and the books, I think there was more clues in that. Because he's reading something specific. It wasn't
exactly.
Like,
it's not. They're
he
not
could have
just
been
showing
reading a book to be reading a book. So yeah, I think there are more clues in that with what and I think Arthur Harrow, whatever's going on with him, is tied to whatever's going on with Moon Knight, whether he knows it or not. But I think it's that same spirituality that's kind of weaving itself through the thing.
Yeah, they're probably the same type of characters, just different paths. You know what I mean? It might almost be something like along the lines of like, I'm possessed by the spirit of whatever Egyptian god. You're possessed by the spirit of what the other Egyptian god type thing, where like these powers know each other from however long, and they've always interacted. That was the kind of energy I got from watching Ethan's
like a different
character.
MoonKnight, like a second one.
Exactly. Watching
Gotcha.
Ethan's character interact, because when he went to judge his scales, because you know how he did that little thing where he's like judging people or whatever. It looked like,
Oh yeah, that was cool.
yeah, it looked like it cut away from showing his tattoo, because before we saw one person, it went good and it was all black. The other person, the woman, the old lady, it went bad and it was red. For his scale, it didn't show us what it was, and he kind of looked at him like, oh, okay, like he knew who he was in that moment, and he's like, let him go, and he tried to run off. So I think there's more to it, like on a different level.
He kind of had an intuition about, like, he even found him in the crowd pretty quick too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think he does have I think that's gonna actually. Yeah.
So the same way he has that kind of reaper following him, I think how he was saying like, oh, this god is, and she was portrayed, blah blah blah, this and that. I think that he might have that spirit following him or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just realizing as you say it. And there was something about that dog. That dog looked like something out of an Egyptian painting too.
Yeah, it's like,
it looked like
Anubis.
Yeah,
The jackal.
Is that what that's called?
Yeah,
it looked
Anubis.
like something familiar. Like it looked. Yeah, that was cool.
The only other thing I could think of that we didn't touch on was I don't know if it means anything, but I didn't notice till the second, or I noticed the first time, but I watched it the second time, and that's Ethan Hawke in the beginning with the glass in his shoes.
Yeah.
Either you have any idea what that was about, or is just one of those things we'll have to wait and.
I think it was just something to pique your interest in his character, because it happens and then you don't see him in a while, and it's just almost like, oh, but you could tell
forget
it's
about it.
him because you see the back of his hair and the walking sticks. You're like, whoa, this guy's something. I think it was something to pique your interest in the character. So when you saw him again, you're like, oh, he's dealing with this guy with the glass in his feet.
I think it has something to do with magic. It was some kind of. He's definitely doing some kind of ritual.
Yeah, it has to do something like some allegiance to that god he was talking about.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the god he was talking about. It was like Aya or some Egyptian, whatever it was, like the deity he worships. And he's getting these people to worship with them.
And then when he was walking away in that scene, I kept waiting to see like blood, and there was no blood. So whatever he's doing, he's not hurting himself from doing
true.
it.
And they made it the point you heard the glass too when he was walking, because when he was in the square, I heard the glass still
Exactly.
when he was walking.
And there was no blood or anything.
Yeah, so he's a mystery in himself. There's a lot to unravel there. Hey, thanks for listening, guys. Make sure you guys subscribe. We're on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Spotify, all the big ones. And of course, if you want to know the other ways to find us, you go to bunzarelli.com. Make sure you follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and now TikTok. I am Bunzarelli. I want to thank Khiim for being here. Great having you back, buddy.
No problem.
Bob, thanks for being here.
Yep.
And we out.